Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the superstation, the future of radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Tuesday, January 26th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been another very busy news day, and it's very busy for me. We're going to deal with some of these stories here. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube. So be sure to follow us there. All right. Well, yesterday, actually it was 2 days ago, I posted an article that dealt with an update in the Breonna Taylor case, okay, out of Kentucky. And I did not get a chance to talk about this on our Sunday show. We talked a lot about the movie directed by Regina King, One Night in Miami. And then we talked about it some more yesterday and tied that into the Black Power movement. But you have 3 of the grand jurors from the Breonna Taylor case. They filed a petition to impeach Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Now, we know Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who was a protege of Moscow Mitch McConnell, came under fire for not filing charges against the officers involved in killing Breonna Taylor, not filing charges for her death, okay, filing charges against one for shooting into a neighboring residence. Okay, so we're going to talk some about this. It's a very interesting turn of events here. 3 grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case filed a petition with the state of House of Representatives last Friday, January 22nd, objecting to the conduct of Attorney General Daniel Cameron and calling for his impeachment. And then speaking of impeachment, we saw that you had in the U.S. Senate today, we saw that senators voted to move forward with the impeachment of Donald Trump. And we see that only 5 Republican senators voted to move forward with it. And you have a lot of them coming up with all types of excuses and mental gymnastics and trying to make these constitutional arguments that don't hold water. Most Senate Republicans back measures saying Trump impeachment trial is unconstitutional. No, it's very constitutional. I bet if it was President Barack Obama on trial and he had already left office, you wouldn't have a problem with it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, we've been talking about a number of different executive orders that Joe Biden has signed since he came into office, January 20th, 2021. Okay. And he signed some more today in dealing with about banning private prisons at the federal level and dealing with racial equity, things like that. So we're going to talk about that as well. And this is a continuation of other executive orders he has signed, and it is following, his inaugural address. He talked about fighting against white supremacy and racism. And even though we want actual laws to pass the legislative branch of government and be signed into law by a president, because those are stronger, executive orders can be reversed by another president. This is a step in the right direction. And some of this has to do with reversing some of the 192 executive orders that Donald Trump signed when he was in office. Okay. So we have to, a lot of people don't know there were 192 executive orders that Trump signed. All right, so we'll discuss that. And then also dealing with birthdays. We were so busy yesterday's show, didn't get a chance to talk about birthday acknowledgments. But January 24th was the birthday of Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, who was a historian and critical figure of the Harlem Renaissance and a Black liberation activist. and writer who shone the spotlight on the legacy of people of African descent. And if you listen to Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Dr. Clarke used to talk about Arturo Schomburg also. He talks about Arturo Schomburg in the documentary, A Great and Mighty Walk. Okay. So we'll talk some about Arturo Schomburg. We have some other birthday shout outs as well. Today is also the birth date of Angela Davis. Okay. Civil rights activist and former member of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, Angela Davis. So happy birthday to her. And she's been fighting to abolish privatized prisons as well for years. And today is also the birth date. Now, even though this person passed away February 28th, 1978, this is also the birthday of Zara Cully. Zara Cully. Now, everybody knows Zara Cully, but you may not know her by name. Zara Cully was Mother Jefferson on The Jeffersons. Everybody remembers Zara Cully's Mother Jefferson. Mother Jefferson. Okay, that's my that's my Weezy Jefferson voice. So George. But everybody remembers Zara Cully as Mother Jefferson. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And I remember, I was a little kid when she passed away, and they wrote it into the script that she passed away as well. But she was born January 26, 1892. She was born January 26, 1892. But just to think that, you're talking about like 3 decades after slavery ended. Just to think in 1978, I want you to understand this. Frederick Douglass died in 1895. She was born 3 years before Frederick Douglass died. Damn. She was born. When you watch The Jeffersons, if we put this in historical perspective, okay, this is 1892 is before James Weldon Johnson wrote the poem that became Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. He wrote that in 1899. 1892, that's 4 years before Plessy versus Ferguson, U.S. Supreme Court case that instituted separate and equal, that solidified Jim Crow laws. So just the date that the year that she was born is a history lesson in itself. Okay. So, I'm the wrong person to talk about this in a short period of time, because I could do a whole class on the significance of her being born in 1892. Okay. But just think about this. We actually got to see that everybody knows Mother Jefferson from The Jeffersons. You may not know her name, Zara Cully, but everybody knows her. Just think, when you watch The Jeffersons again, you're looking at somebody that was born before Frederick Douglass died. And then Harriet Tubman died in 1913. She was born before Harriet Tubman died. She was born before Booker T. Washington died. Booker T. Washington died in 1915. Booker T. Washington and Harriet Tubman were former slaves. Frederick Douglass was a former slave. She was born before 3 prominent former slaves died. I wish I could have a conversation with Zara Cully, because it would be a very deep historical, conversation. So we'll talk some about that. All right. So on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. When you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word KEMET, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word KEMET, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Sign up for our email newsletter as well, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. Now, if you'd like this type of information, email us. If you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $ TheAHNShow through Cash App. $ TheAHNShow through Cash App. And then also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. Okay. PayPal.me/TheAHNShow. Or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. We're coming up here on a break in a couple minutes. So we got like 2 minutes before the break, I think. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so I watched the press. I watched the press conference today. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki had a press conference, and Susan Rice spoke at the press conference today, and Susan Rice talked about executive orders that Joe Biden is going to sign, and some he has already signed, in tackling racial inequities, things like this. Okay, I want to go to this clip. We're going to play a little bit of the clip here from Susan Rice. Shakita, clip 3, Susan Rice on Biden's plan for racial inequity. Investing in equity is good for economic growth. Let's play a little bit of this before the break. Let's go to this clip.
Time for so many Americans, and all Americans need urgent federal action to meet this moment. Today, President Biden will deliver a national address on his plans to advance racial justice and equity, starting with an equitable and inclusive recovery. President Biden will renew the federal government's commitment to making the American dream real for families across the nation by taking ambitious steps to redress inequality in our economy and expand opportunity for communities that have been left behind, including communities of color. His economic plans make historic investments in underserved communities and put equity at the heart of our recovery. His ambitious agenda builds on a legacy of Americans forging opportunity out of crisis. These aren't feel-good policies. The evidence is clear. Investing in equity is good for economic growth, and it creates jobs for all Americans. Economists have estimated that the U.S. economy has lost a staggering $16 trillion over the last 20 years because of discrimination against families of color.
Hey, pause it right there, Shakira.
If we close racial gaps in income and opportunity, these same economists have estimated we could add $5 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next 5 years.
Hey, pause it right there, Shakira.
Add over 6 million new jobs.
Okay, I know we have to go to break. Now, that ties into the study we've talked about a number of times on this show, including yesterday, that came from September 2020 from Citigroup, that shows how the U.S. has lost $16 trillion. U.S. economy has lost $16 trillion over 20 years from 2000 to 2020 because of racism. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
For 25 years, the Black History 101 Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the Black Museum movement in America by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, and cultural events, making it the most traversed Black History mobile exhibit in American history. Dr. Khalid Hakim is the founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum, and he is a highly sought-after public speaker on topics of Black history, social studies, education, museum studies, hip-hop, and race relations. Dr. Khalid was named among the change makers for NBC Universal's Erase the Hate campaign and listed as one of the 100 men of distinction for Black enterprise. He recently founded the Michigan Hip Hop Archive on the campus of Western Michigan University. The Black History 101 Mobile Museum is currently scheduling in-person and virtual exhibits nationwide. For more information, please contact Dr. Khalid Al-Hakim directly at 313-645-4197, 313-645-4197, or visit their website at blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. That's blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. You can also email him at bhistory101@yahoo.com, bhistory101@yahoo.com.
Are you getting ready for fall or winter? We have the solution for all seasonal clothing needs. Comedicwear.com is the go-to online source for Comedic African fashion and lifestyle products with a contemporary twist. We're committed to offering unique styles reflecting our African heritage. Comedicwear.com is inspired by ComedicScribes.com to influence our people in learning and showing pride. Please visit our website at ComedicWear.com.
Black Bees products are a collection of natural, organic, personal care products with an appreciation of nature and bees. Our philosophy is without bees, we have nothing. We are honoring our Nile Valley ancestors who understood the importance of bees. Black Bees created a high-quality, natural, organic personal care line that would be affordable to everyone. We hope you try and enjoy our Black Bees products line and come back and visit us at blackbeesproducts.com.
Visit 4glossygirls.com. That's the number 4glossygirls.com, and follow them on Instagram at 4glossygirls.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Tuesday, January 26, 2021, and we're live now. February is almost here. February is African American History Month. I will be doing a series of classes for African American History Month online, and I teach a 16-hour, 8-session online course that will begin February 3rd, Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The name of the class is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history. We deal with a sequence of historical events that led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place and starting in the mid-15th century. Okay. For more information, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also email me. Email me at AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you want more information, interested in signing up. You can watch from around the world. It's regularly $130. It's on sale $80. All the episodes we do the classes live, and you can ask questions in the class, the live chat, and then they'll archive. The class will archive, so you can go back and watch them over and over again. Okay. And as soon as you register, we have some bonus content that you can watch also. I'm going to post a link here, but you can email me also at AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Stands for African History Network Show. AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. Right before the break, I was talking about the what took place today in four more executive orders that Joe Biden has signed. It was 30 by this past weekend, 30 executive orders by this past weekend. I want to go back to this clip here. So during the White House press secretary briefing that took place today, and I watch them pretty much every day. If I don't watch them, I listen to them. Susan Rice spoke, and she was talking about these executive orders and tackling racism, racial inequality, etc. I want to go back to this clip here. Let's go back to this clip, Shakita.
New job for all Americans.
Oh,
so building a more equitable
do me a favor,
economy
Shakita. Just
do
me a favor. You can just start it from the beginning. Shakita, just start it back from the beginning. That's fine. This deals with Susan Rice on Biden's plan for racial inequality.
Urgent federal action to meet this moment. Today, President Biden will deliver a national address on his plans to advance racial justice and equity, starting with an equitable and inclusive recovery. President Biden will renew the federal government's commitment to making the American dream real for families across the nation by taking ambitious steps to redress inequality in our economy and expand opportunity for communities that have been left behind, including communities of color. His economic plans make historic investments in underserved communities and put equity at the heart of our recovery. His ambitious agenda builds on a legacy of Americans forging opportunity out of crisis. These aren't feel-good policies. The evidence is clear. Investing in equity is good for economic growth, and it creates jobs for all Americans. Economists have estimated that the U.S. economy has lost a staggering $16 trillion over the last 20 years because of discrimination against families of color. If we closed racial gaps in income and opportunity, these same economists have estimated we could add $5 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next 5 years and add over 6 million new jobs for all Americans. So building a more equitable economy is essential if Americans are going to compete and thrive in the 21st century. We've hit the ground running to embed equity throughout the administration. On day one, the president signed an executive order directing an unprecedented whole-of-government initiative to embed racial equity across federal policies, programs, and institutions. That starts with a review of policies and institutions to redress systemic racism where it exists and to advance equity where we aren't doing enough. Every agency will place equity at the core of their public engagement, their policy design and program delivery, to ensure that government resources are reaching Americans of color and all marginalized communities, rural, urban, disabled, LGBTQ+, religious minorities, and so many others.
Okay, so that was an excerpt of her speech today at the White House press secretary briefing. You should be able to watch that whole thing at whitehouse.gov. All of those briefings, they're archived at whitehouse.gov. Even the ones for Trump. I don't know if they took the ones from Trump down. But they may still be there. Who knows? So then I want to go to this clip here. We're going to go to clip 1, Shakita. So this is Joe Biden. Later that day, he had a press conference at 2:00 to sign these 4 executive orders and talk about them. I'm going to go to this clip here from MSNBC. Biden announces executive orders focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But very quickly, when she talked about the $16 trillion, we've talked about that here on this show a number of times. I've done like an hour and a half video, and we just re-aired it earlier today, that dealt with this study from Citigroup Bank. And this study from Citigroup came out in September 2020. And we're going to turn on the screen share. I want you to hear this. I want you to see this because this was on January 20th. Biden signed 10 executive orders. And one of them was dealing with, what is it called? Executive Order on Advancing Racial Equity and Support for Underserved Communities through the Federal Government. That was January 20th, 2021. In that executive order, they talk about the economy could create $5 trillion dollars in a certain amount of time, what have you. That comes directly from the study. We talked about this yesterday for those who saw yesterday's show. So I want to, let me see, where are we here? I want to show you this once again. Go read this article from CBSNews.com. CBSNews.com. Okay. This deals with tying the studies into legislation. Even though this is an executive order, okay, it's a start. We want policies to pass the legislative branch of government because those are stronger, but an executive order is a start. Okay, let's turn this on here. Okay, so this is from CBSNews.com. This is from September 23rd, 2020. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion. Citigroup fines. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion. Citigroup fines. This is not $16 trillion since 1865. This is since the year 2000. Okay, this is just looking at a 20-year period of time. America could have been $16 trillion richer if not for inequities in education, housing, wages, and business investment between African American and white Americans over the past 20 years, new research concludes. Housing, education, wages, business investment, etc. Okay. The study released by Citigroup, so it came out in September 2020. The study released by Citigroup is the latest in a body of research. This is not the only study. The latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. So once again, and if you all saw Roland Martin Unfiltered today, you saw F. Lee Francis on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go back and watch. Oh my! First of all, this is what you got to do: take some Tylenol or Motrin or something like that, because that boy gave me a headache. And I've been on with F. Lee Francis before. He's one of these black conservatives. He works for the Federalist Society, and I knew he was confused before today. I was on with him before. We interviewed him for about 45 minutes, about 2 months ago on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm a panelist on every Friday. And I gave him credit for coming on the show because Candace Owens ain't going to come. Candace Owens won't come on Roland Martin Unfiltered. She's been running from Roland for 3 years. Good reasons, because she's an idiot. But, I tried to I knew the brother was confused. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. But today, I tried to, I didn't just want to just go like for the jugular. But today, oh my God, he just showed how he does not understand what racism is. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism has nothing to do with not liking people, calling people racial epithets, calling people the N-word. That's not racism. That's bigotry. Okay? African Americans can't be we can't be racist. Racist deals with a power structure. We can be bigots. Fred Sanford was a bigot. I don't want no Puerto Ricans in my house. Fred Sanford was a bigot. Racism deals with a power structure. Racism occurs when one race of people, and also racism is a group-to-group relationship. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, media, healthcare, jobs, etc. And they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. That's what racism is. Racism is on a whole nother level. Calling somebody, I don't call our people the N-word. I don't call other people in other ethnic groups racial epithets. I don't do that. Calling somebody a racial epithet or a slur, that's not racism. You have people that want to make these false equivalencies when you have the median household net worth for white people 10 times that of African Americans, and that is historic because of a legacy of 246 years of slavery, decades of Jim Crow segregation, redlining, housing discrimination, the 1944 GI Bill, things like this, because of these structural inequities. And they're trying to compare and say, oh, because a black person called a white person a racial slur, oh, they're racist too. That's big. No, those are two entirely different things. Get out of here with that nonsense. Okay, you trying to confuse people so we can't address the issue. Okay, this is why you have to understand history. This is why the book How White Folks Got So Rich: The Untold Story of American White Supremacy is such a crucial book. It's small, but it's powerful. How White Folks Got So Rich: The Untold Story of American White Supremacy, because it lays out historically all those laws and policies put in place to maldistribute wealth, power, and resources into the dominant hands of Europeans. Black Labor, White Wealth by one of my teachers, Dr. Claude Anderson, is good. Powernomics is good also. But How White Folks Got So Rich is a concentrated book. It's small, it's concentrated. Okay, that's the third edition. I have all three editions. So when we go back and look at this here, very quickly, and we'll go to this clip here, Shakita. I just want to set this up for people so we can really understand this. The study released this week by Citigroup is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. Citigroup arrived at its $16 trillion figure after estimating that African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades. We're just looking at 2000 to 2020. We're not talking about from 1619 to 1865. Okay, because people say, "Oh, it should have been a lot more." Blah blah blah. What? This is just looking at 20 years. Okay, understand that. African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they could not get a college degree. Now, that doesn't mean African Americans don't have college degrees. That means that because of structural inequities and obstacles, if those obstacles didn't exist, a lot more of us could have college degrees. The housing market lost $218 billion in sales because African American applicants could not get home loans. This is structural. About $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because African American entrepreneurs could not access bank loans. This is structural. Okay. About $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy. What this is doing, which is different than a lot of other conversations that deal with racism, and some of those conversations are legitimate. What this right here is showing is that racism, even though African Americans are the brunt of it, is directed towards us, is showing how it negatively impacts all of America. So when you do right by black people, yes, we get the majority of the benefits, but it's going to help everybody when you do right by black people. When you screw us over, it's going to hurt you too, even though you think that it's for your benefit. When you screw us over, it's going to hurt you as well. It just won't hurt you as much. We get the brunt of it. But what this is showing is how racism has negatively impacted America, even though the brunt of it is directed towards African Americans. Because you have some people who want to keep things the way they are because they think it benefits them. Okay? Now, if you're worth, $80 billion and $50 billion or something like that, maybe. But if you standing in the food line, if you lost your job, if you waiting in line to get a coronavirus test, if you lost your health insurance, you may be white, but you ain't on the team. You're on the bench. You may be white, but you're not on the team. You ain't playing on the field. You're on the bench, holding down the bench. So what's more, the U.S. could have $5 trillion in gross domestic product over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, the study indicated. So when she talked about the $5 trillion, Susan Rice, when Joe Biden talked about the $5 trillion, it's in the executive order he signed January 20th. This is where that comes from. We talked about this on yesterday's show. This is where it comes from, this study. Okay, so let's go to, I want to go to this clip here of Joe Biden speaking today. And then we'll look at what some civil rights activists had to say, because they said this is a good start, doesn't go far enough. I agree, doesn't go far enough. You need legislation passed through the legislative branch of government. But hopefully we can get this stuff pushed through. We'll see. But this is a start here. Let's go to clip one, Shakita.
Every White House component and every agency will be involved in this work because advancing equity has to be everyone's job. Today, I'll be shortly signing an additional package of executive actions to continue this vital work. Housing, for example. Housing is a right in America, and home ownership is an essential tool to wealth creation and to be passed down to generations. Today, I'm directing the Department of Housing and Urban Affairs and Urban Development to redress historical racism in federal housing policies. Today, I'm directing the federal agency to reinvigorate the consultation process with Indian tribes. Respect for tribal sovereignty will be a cornerstone of our engaging with Native American communities. This builds on the work we did last week to expand tribes' access to the Strategic National Stockpile for the first time, to ensure they receive help from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to fight this pandemic. Today, I'm directing federal agencies to combat the resurgence of xenophobia, particularly against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that we've seen skyrocket during this pandemic. This is unacceptable, and it's un-American. I've asked the Department of Justice to strengthen this partnership with the Asian American and Pacific Islander community to prevent those hate crimes. I've also asked the Department of Health and Human Services to put out best practices for combating xenophobia in our national response to COVID. Look, in the weeks ahead, I'll be reaffirming the federal government's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility, building on the work we started in the Obama-Biden administration. That's why I'm rescinding the previous administration's harmful ban on diversity and sensitivity training and abolish the offensive counterfactual 1776 Commission. Unity and healing must begin with understanding and truth, not ignorance and lies. Today, I'm also issuing an executive order, and that will ultimately end the Justice Department's use of private prisons, an industry that houses pretrial detainees and federal prisoners. The executive order directs the Attorney General to decline to renew contracts with privately operated criminal facilities, a step we started to take at the end of the Obama administration and was reversed under the previous administration. This is the first step to stop corporations from profiting off of incarceration that is less humane and less safe, as the studies show. And it is just the beginning of my administration's plan to address systemic problems in our criminal justice system. Here's another thing we need to do. We need to restore and expand the Voting Rights Act, named after our dear friend John Lewis. and continue to fight back against laws that many states are engaged in to suppress the right to vote while expanding access to the ballot box for all eligible voters. Because here's the deal, and I'll close with this. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. And the simple truth is, our soul will be troubled as long as systemic racism is allowed to persist. We can't eliminate it. It's not going to be overnight. We can't eliminate everything, but it's corrosive, it's destructive, and it's costly. It costs every American, not just who felt the sting of racial injustice. We are not just a nation of morally deprived because of systemic racism. We're also less prosperous. We're less successful. We're less secure. So we must change. And I know it's going to take time, but I know we can do it. And I firmly believe the nation is ready to change. But government has to change as well. We need to make equity and justice part of what we do every day. Today, tomorrow, and every day. I'm going to sign these executive actions to continue the work to make real the promise of America for every American. Again, I'm not promising we can end it tomorrow, but I promise you we're going to continue to make progress to eliminate systemic racism, and every branch of the White House and the federal government is going to be part of that effort.
Okay, so that was from January 26, 2021 afternoon. Check out that clip from MSNBC. That is, Biden announces executive orders focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, Biden announces executive orders focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right. We'll probably talk about this some more tomorrow, because I want to go through and read all the executive orders. I've read summaries of them. You can read them at whitehouse.gov, along with the other 30 plus executive orders. I want to go to this article here from Washington Post. Biden signs orders on racial equity, and civil rights groups press for more, as they should. Biden signs orders on racial equity, and civil rights groups press for more. We're going to go to clip 2 next, Shakita. So cue up clip 2, please. Okay, so Biden signed 4 executive actions Tuesday aimed at increasing racial equity across the nation. A move the administration said was a big early step in his efforts to dismantle systemic racism. Those civil rights groups made it clear they will press for more sweeping change in the months ahead. And there's going to be a number of executive orders. I think it's going to be 10. I think it's going to be about something like 100 in the first 100 days. So there's more coming as well. You can read them all at whitehouse.gov. Check out this article here from the Washington Post from January 26, 2021. Biden signs orders on racial equity, and civil rights groups press for more, as they should. I totally agree with that. Now, the measures seek to strengthen anti-discrimination housing policies that were weakened under Donald Trump, halt new Justice Department contracts with private prisons, increase the sovereignty of Native American tribes. This may be a good time for us that have Native American ancestry to reconnect with some Native American tribes. Just throwing that out there. If you do, increase the sovereignty of Native American tribes and combat violence and xenophobia against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Weeks after the departure of a president who blamed the Chinese for the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Biden said the actions were part of an effort to infuse a focus on equity into everything the federal government does. Quote, we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. Okay, you heard that part. And the truth is our soul will be troubled as long as systemic racism is allowed to exist. I'm not promising that we can end it tomorrow, but I promise that we're going to make strides to end systemic racism, and every branch of the White House and the federal government will be part of that. And that's something that Susan Rice talked about in the clip that I played previously. Now, the actions reflected the extent to which Biden's assent to the presidency was wrapped up with the nation's racial struggles. He kicked off his campaign with a rejection of Trump's approach to race, was propelled to the nomination largely by African-American voters as racial justice protests erupted across the country, aligned his campaign increasingly with their cause. Now activists are making it clear they expect more from Joe Biden than a diverse administration and rhetoric about justice. Tuesday marked his first major effort to respond to mixed reviews from civil rights groups. In a memo, the administration pledged to work with Congress on legislation that would increase funding for minority-owned small businesses, invest in historically Black colleges and universities, and triple funding for Title I schools serving a high proportion of low-income children. All right. Now, some activists caution that tackling systemic racism is complex and will not be resolved by government edicts or executive orders. Okay, you need legislation, but that has to pass both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Okay, I agree with that. Executive orders can be a start, but legislation passing the House and the Senate and being signed into law by president is more powerful and more wide-ranging than executive orders. Presidents are limited to what they can do by executive order. So executive orders are a start, but it's not everything that we need. And just so people understand, because I saw people posting about this, you can't do reparations by executive order. Based upon Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress controls the purse strings. That has to pass through both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. The votes don't exist in the House. I've talked about this before. That's why you can't get H.R. 40 passed. If you can't get a bill passed to study reparations, how the hell are you going to get one passed to pay reparations? There's not enough people in the House of Representatives that support reparations and that will vote for H.R. 40. The votes don't exist. That's why we have to understand the process. That's why the right people have to be voted into office and the wrong ones voted out. You don't have, and the Congressional Black Caucus is only 59 people, 60 people. There are 435 members in the House of Representatives. Okay? There are 435 members in the House of Representatives. The Congressional Black Caucus, even though they're the largest caucus in the House of Representatives, there's only 59 people. It takes 218 votes to get a bill passed in the House of Representatives. Okay? So oftentimes I hear people talking about reparations. Most people can't tell you how to get it. They just say, we want it, we're going to demand it. We've been demanding reparations for 200 years. Come on. You have to understand the process to actually bring into existence what it is that we want. Otherwise, what the hell are we talking about? And then in the Senate, you're going to need 60 votes in the Senate, unless they employ the nuclear option and get 51. You don't even have 51 votes in the Senate supporting reparations. I'm telling you right now, you don't. And the Senate is 95% white. You don't. Even among Democrats, all of them don't support reparations in the Senate. So this is why we have to understand the process, the actual process to bring into existence what we say we want, and then carry out that process. The right people, more of the right people had to be voted into office who support it, and the people that don't support it had to be voted out of office. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Okay? Eric said, even now, all members of the CBC support reparations in various ways. Yeah, because one of the Representative James Clyburn, South Carolina, really doesn't really support reparations. Now, reparations means different things to different people. For some people, reparations is just a check. I said before, there's no way that the majority of reparations should be in the form of money. I've said that before. And I've been studying history for 28 years. Why? If we all got $1 million a day, white people will have it all back this time next week. If we all got, y'all know I'm telling the truth. If we all got $1 million a day, white people will have it all back this time next week. And you would not have brought about the structural change and address systemic racism and what caused these inequities to take place. Okay? Now, cash payments can be part of an overall reparations package. Ain't no way in the hell that reparations should be 100% in the form of money or the majority of it. You can't go to conferences each year and talk about how African Americans spend 97% of their dollars with people that don't look like us. And we watch documentaries that talk about this, and we read books that talk about this, and then think if we get some money, all of a sudden that those spending patterns are going to change. No, they're not. If anything, they're going to get worse. You know this. Let's not act brand new. So it could be cash payments can be part of overall reparations. So Representative James Clyburn, he's against when one of the things I think he's talking about is, one, reparations being 100% in the form of money. Two, I think, because he's a former history teacher as well, I think one of the things he's talking about is basically it boils down to this. Look, I know these white people in the House, they're not voting for reparations. Now he's for his 10, 20, 30 program, but you have differences that deals with addressing poverty in cities and states that have like a real history of poverty, et cetera. So that will benefit African Americans, but reparations is for some people say, look, reparations sounds good. That ain't gonna happen anytime soon. We need to focus on what we can get accomplished now. That's what some people say also. All right. And I understand that as well, because I'm telling you right now, that ain't happening anytime soon. We have to understand the process to really bring that into existence if we actually want to do that. Now, we just want to keep doing videos about reparations. Just keep doing what you're doing, because it's not going anywhere. All right, we're out of time here on 910 AM, the Superstation WFDF. We're going to, those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting for a little while longer. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation. Right now, it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. We'll talk about Breonna Taylor also. We'll get that in. So somebody, Eric said, Clyburn doesn't support monetary reparations. Yeah. So you have a lot of people. It's the formal reparations that we're talking about. Okay. And that's not going to just giving cash is not going to bring about the systemic change, correct those inequities. That's not going to address that. Okay. The other thing is and not to draw this out, not to make this a long discussion, because I need to finish this topic and then get to this other one and then talk about Arturo Schomburg. When we talk about reparations, we're talking about repairing the damage. The root word and root concept of reparations means to repair the damage that was done. Okay? To repair the damage that was done. Period. Regardless of what it was. Okay. When we talk about reparations for 246 years of slavery, decades of Jim Crow segregation, redlining, etc., it's not just for slavery; it's for the legacy of slavery. This is why we have to really understand what it is that we're talking about. It's not just 246 years of chattel slavery; it's what happened after that. That was the ripple effect. Okay. When we talk about repairing the damage that was done, to repair means to restore you back to a state prior to the damage being done. Understanding that, then we have to analyze who African people were and what we had before the damage was done. This is why just addressing this as cash payments doesn't address that. You have to understand these were African people put into a condition. These weren't slaves put into a condition. These weren't people who were ignorant, who had nothing put into a condition. No, these were African people who had our names, our history, our spiritual systems, our language, our cosmology. Cosmology deals with understanding the universe as an orderly system, which comes from your culture. our cosmogony. Cosmogony deals with understanding the origins of the universe based upon your culture. We had our folklores, we had our mores, we had skill sets, whether it was metallurgy, whether we were scientists, whether we were doing agriculture. We had our family ties, some of us on land, etc. You have to understand who African people were and what we had before the damage was done. We're largely dealing with a people, African Americans, we're largely dealing with a people who have been taught to hate themselves, who've been stripped of our names, our history, our culture, our spiritual systems. We have been taught to see reality through the eyes of Europeans, through a European cultural paradigm. Just giving cash to a mentally brain damaged people who've been taught to hate themselves don't address the damage that was done. Just giving cash payments to a mentally damaged people who've largely been taught to hate themselves and been stripped of their history, culture, spiritual systems, language, their names, that really does not address the damage that was done. That's why we have to look at this comprehensively. But you have to first understand who we were as African people before we were put into the condition. If you just think of us as slaves, you're not understanding the whole context here. You're not understanding what actually happened. All right. So so hopefully y'all understand all that. Okay. So let's continue here. How's everybody doing? We didn't even have any phone calls tonight. You know, this hour goes by so quickly. And be quite honest with you, I was like really, really tired before I came on the air. And as soon as the on-air light went on, boom, I was gone. Okay. I was like, I was on 10. Okay. All right. So let's do this. I want to go to this clip. I got to cue it up because we're not on 910 AM Superstation WFDF anymore. But you all understand what I'm saying, right? This is a whole different conversation. I'm a historian. Okay. When you talk to people who are historians, you talk to people who are African centered, especially, and see, my teacher's been fighting for reparations for decades. All right. When Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, people like that, when you talk to people like that, their understanding of this is much deeper.
With blackbusinesstea.com, the messages are clear and meaningful. Keep your business in the black and out of the red. Mind your black business. Know your numbers and plan strategically. Black Business Boss, lead your industry. Support black business, encourage, patronize, and uplift one another. Blackbusinesstea.com currently has products sold in Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles, with proceeds returned to the black community. They have a wide selection of hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, hats, sweatshirts that support black-owned businesses. Visit the website blackbusinesstee.com. That's blackbusinesstee.com. For 25 years, the Black History 101 Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the Black Museum movement in America by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, and cultural events, making it the most traversed Black History mobile exhibit in American history. Dr. Khalid El-Hakim is the founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum, and he is a highly sought-after public speaker on topics of Black history, social studies, education, museum studies, hip-hop, and race relations. Dr. Khalid was named among the change makers for NBC Universal's Erase Hate campaign and listed as one of the 100 men of distinction for Black enterprise. He recently founded the Michigan Hip Hop Archive on the campus of Western Michigan University. The Black History 101 Mobile Museum is currently scheduling in-person and virtual exhibits nationwide. For more information, please contact Dr. Lid Al-Hakim directly at 313-645-4197, 313-645-4197, or visit their website at blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. That's blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. You can also email him at bhistory101@yahoo.com, bhistory101@yahoo.com. Soul Natural Beauty Products offers organic, plant-based skin and hair care products that will rejuvenate skin and naturally grow and thicken hair. Their whipped shea butter can heal or restore damaged skin cells to prevent hyperpigmentation and skin breakouts. All products are made with organic plant-based ingredients. Their maximum hair growth oil is fortified with organic herbal extracts and undeniably proves that Mother Nature knows best. It thickens, lengthens, softens, and conditions all types of hair. They even guarantee hair improvement within 90 days or a full refund. Their all-natural 24-hour deodorant leaves the body smelling fresh without sweating for up to 24 hours. It does not stain fabric, goes on smoothly, and has a refreshing lavender and frankincense aroma. It can be used by men and even children. Place your order today at soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com. That's soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com, and follow them on Facebook at Soul Natural Beauty Products. Intuitive Design Clothing is an online accessory store that sells one-of-a-kind signature statement pieces for men and women. They also specialize in fashion consultations, closet organization, and decorating small spaces. Are you looking for a statement piece for a special affair, or would you like to add some select pieces to your ensemble of accessories? If you're looking for something different, definitely contact Kathy Norm, owner and CEO of Intuitive Design Clothing. Visit their website, intuitivedesignClothing.com. That's intuitivedesignClothing.com, and you can email her at info@intuitivedesignClothing.com. Intuitive Design Clothing is where every entrance is a grand entrance.
Do you have an idea or business that requires app development, or thinking of moving your IT resources to the cloud? We have post-paid and profit-sharing plans for unique ideas or profitable businesses. Who can take advantage of this unique program? Entrepreneurs with unique ideas, startups, small to medium businesses. Contact us, 267-209-0352.
Visit nomadicsystems.net, nomadicsystems.net today.
Okay, so I want to go to this clip here. This was from The Beat with Ari Melber. January 26, 2021. He's talking about Biden signing an executive order to end privatized prisons. This is at the federal level, not the state level. Okay, a president does not have authority to end privatized prisons at the state level because of the 10th Amendment and states' rights. Once again, this goes back to the U.S. Constitution. All right, after prison beating, Biden says U.S. must end private prison business. Okay. After prison beating, Biden says U.S. must end private prison business. The stock price of Core Civic and Geo Group dropped today. I think they said Geo Group dropped 8% today, and Core Civic dropped 6%. These are two of the largest owner-operators of privatized prisons in the country. And they have contracts with the federal government for privatized prisons. Now, in August of 2016, the last year, President Obama, the Obama Justice Department said they were not going to renew contracts for privatized prisons. Okay, at the federal level. The day that statement came out, the stock price for Geo Group and Core Civic took a big hit. Geo Group and Core Civic backed Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential election. And they donated almost $600,000 to Donald Trump's presidential campaign. When Trump gets in office in February 2017, his first attorney general, Jeff Sessions, reverses that initiative from the Obama administration to end privatized prisons. Privatized prisons were losing money under the Obama administration because the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015. So they were losing money. So they backed Trump. Okay, let's go to this clip here. Hold on. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. So check out that clip from The Beat with Ari Melber from January 26, 2021. We'll post a link here. Yeah, and this is something that I said back during the 2016 campaign because I was listening to Trump. Trump supported privatized prisons, and he was financed by privatized prison companies. Even though he said he was going to self-finance his campaign, he didn't self-finance his campaign. So check this out here. All right, let's continue here. So if we go back to the article from Washington Post. Biden signs orders on racial equality and civil rights groups press for more, which is true. They should press for more. I totally agree with that. So it goes on to say, now activists are making it clear they expect more from Biden than a diverse administration and rhetoric about justice. Tuesday marked his first major effort to respond to mixed reviews from civil rights groups. We talked about, okay, Melanie Campbell. Some activists cautioned that tackling systemic racism is complex and will not be solved by government edicts, okay, or executive orders. We need legislation. Melanie Campbell, who heads the Black Women's Roundtable, a group of Black female activists, said that she was buoyed by Joe Biden's, that Joe Biden took decisive steps on equity, especially related to housing discrimination. Less than a week into his term, but that more work needs to be done. That more work needs to be done. That's true. I totally agree with that. She said, we plan to engage this administration and to engage Congress. Black people didn't just help the Biden-Harris ticket win for our health. I'm not waiting on announcements. I'm engaging. Maybe we'll give them a week or two to settle in, but we're not sitting around waiting. Okay. You got to deal with Congress. You got to deal with the House of Representatives and the Senate. You got to get these bills passed through the House and the Senate so Biden can sign them into law. Biden spoke Tuesday in unusually blunt terms, decrying white supremacy and systemic racism and saying the nation must change its entire approach to racial equity. Quote, it's time to act because that's what faith and morality call us to do, he said. It's what the core values of this nation call us to do, end quote. Now, some people would, I think when people talk about the core values of this nation, I think they talk about the highest aspirations of this nation. I don't think they're talking about the history. Because the history of this nation is segregation, Jim Crow, domestic terrorism, a lot of the history. So I think they're talking about the highest aspirations of this nation, what the potential this nation can become, not like what it has been. My analysis of history tells me that. The moment carried echoes of Lyndon B. Johnson, who assumed the presidency amid another period of racial turmoil, said Ravi Perry, R-A-V-I, Ravi Perry, chairman of the political science department at Howard University. The 1963 March on Washington and other civil rights protests led to the 1964 Civil Rights Act and laid the groundwork for the 1965 Voting Rights Act and the 1968 Fair Housing Act, Perry said. President Lyndon Johnson spoke out on the need to eradicate racism, delivered a commencement address at Howard University, and famously declared, "We shall overcome," to a joint session of Congress. But the landmark civil rights laws were passed because a president decided to make racial justice a substantive legislative domestic priority. He leaned on Congress to push those two bills through. And after the Civil Rights Act of '64, because there was a filibuster taking place in the U.S. Senate around the Civil Rights Act of '64. What pushed the Civil Rights Act of '64 over the top was June 21st, 1964, when Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney were killed, the three civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Mississippi. That's what really pushed it over the top and got it to pass the Senate and be signed into law by President Johnson in July of 1964. When they're pushing for the Voting Rights Act of '65, he told the activists, Dr. King and others, John Lewis, he told them, look, I used up a lot of political capital last year to get this bill pushed through, the Civil Rights Act. He said, I can't go back to them. I can't go back to the Congress, and especially the Senate, and try to push through a voting rights bill. Okay. So one of the things they did was dramatize the need for it, for the Civil Rights Act. And you have things like the Selma to Montgomery March. Okay. to dramatize the fight for the, not necessarily the right to vote, because it was the 15th Amendment of 1870, but they say the right to vote is not correctly accurate, but it's removing the obstacles to being able to vote. That's what the Voting Rights Act of 65 was doing, and then expanded it for African American women. The saying that the Voting Rights Act gave the right to vote is tricky when you really understand this, because one, nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it explicitly give anyone the right to vote. One. Two, the 15th Amendment of 1870 guaranteed the right to vote, or guaranteed being able to vote, but that only applied to African American men. But nowhere in the Constitution does it explicitly give anyone the right to vote. And because of the 10th Amendment, states do have a lot of control over access to the polls and who can vote. But the Voting Rights Act made it illegal to put obstacles in the way of people being able to vote. Okay, if you go to history.com, just make a long story short, because I have two other topics to get to. If you go to history.com, official website of the History Channel, or you can even go to house.gov or senate.gov, and you can read the Civil Rights Act there as well. Okay, you can read the Civil Rights Act there also. All right. So what's important to understand is that we talked about this last week when we dealt with the Kerner Commission report. When the Kerner Commission came into existence, it was commissioned by President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, in July of 1967, July 28th, 1967. And it was designed to study the rebellions that were taking place, the uprisings all across the country from 64 to 67. The rebellions in Detroit, because the Detroit rebellion had just ended the day before, July 27th. To study them and find out why they took place, what could be done to prevent them from happening, what they were about, why they took place, things like this. What could be done to prevent them from happening in the future. So it was made up of 11 people, including Senator Ed Brooks, okay, African-American Republican. And they dealt with the role that racism plays, structural inequities, etc. And they made recommendations. They said that there need to be investments into the into these urban communities, these African American communities, basically. There need to be investments to address poverty, unemployment, underemployment, etc. Let me just show you this quickly, just to put this in perspective here. Put this in historical perspective. And this hits on what a lot of the activists today are talking about. So President Johnson charged the commission with answering 3 questions. This is from blackpast.org. Okay, go read this full article here. National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders, also known as the Kerner Commission. And we talked about this when we did our segments dealing with Dr. King, the week of Dr. King Day, that whole week. President Johnson charged the commission with answering 3 questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What could be done to prevent racial disturbance in the future? In order to answer these questions, the commission surveyed 23 cities across the nation which experienced a racial rebellion. They found that the racial disturbances were not the result of a single triggering event, but that in all cities surveyed, African Americans experienced severe economic and social disadvantages compared to whites. African Americans experienced severe economic and social disadvantages compared to whites. Also, the report noted that the riots were not the result of any conspiracy. Rather, they were a response to what the report identified as the racial attitudes and behaviors of white Americans toward African Americans. Okay, the Kerner Commission report concluded that the report noted that the riots, the rebellions, were not the result of any conspiracy, but rather they were the response to what the report identified as the racial attitudes and behaviors of white Americans toward African Americans. In responding to why the rebellions occurred, the Kerner Commission report pointed to Black Americans' feelings of frustration and powerlessness regarding extremely high rates of unemployment and underemployment, poverty, police brutality, and inadequate public services. Extremely high rates of unemployment and underemployment, poverty, police brutality, and inadequate public services. The report continued that a largely poor Black population was confined to the central cities while a predominantly white population moved out. They moved out to the suburbs, and that the racism of white Americans was essentially responsible for the explosive mixture, and that the racism of white Americans was essentially responsible for the explosive mixture leading to the uprisings. Now, answering what could be done to prevent in the future, the commission suggested that the federal government intervene to improve housing, education, employment opportunities, and social services for African Americans. This is what they recommended. Everybody on the commission was white except for Senator Ed Brooke. The Kerner Commission suggested that the federal government intervene to improve housing, education, employment opportunities, and social services for African Americans. Also, to dismantle, they recommended that the federal government dismantle discriminatory practices in education, employment, the police force, and criminal court systems. President Johnson, who signed the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, Affirmative Action, September 1965, President Johnson accepted the report but did not support the conclusions, and minimal efforts were made to address the problems identified by the commission. Now, it is true, at the very same time he was dealing with the Vietnam War, the Vietnam War took a lot of attention away from the civil rights movement and our issues. Okay, that is true. But he basically ignored the conclusions, didn't act upon them. The interview I played from NBC News with Dr. King from May 8th, 1967, called After Civil Rights, Black Power. This is 3 months before the Kerner Commission is convened. But Dr. King talks about in that speech how, because of the Vietnam War taking up so much time on the news programs and taking up so much space in the newspapers, how it was hard for the civil rights leaders and civil rights activists to get our issues pushed to the forefront because of the Vietnam War. But something else that he said was, in that same interview, is that, and maybe we'll share another excerpt of it tomorrow night. I'm trying to keep this short. Something else that he also said was, the same people like in Congress who voted for the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65, when it came to make a financial investment in the African American community and spend billions of dollars in the African American community, they were against that. He talked about that as well. So this is why a lot of activists today are saying we have to push for more. Okay? It is true this is only 6 days in the administration, but they're saying we have to push for more. I totally agree with that, especially understanding history. Okay? I totally agree with that. Let's see here. All right, let's go to let's go back to this article here. This is from back to the article from the Washington Post here quickly. Then I want to get to the story about the Breonna Taylor case and some of the grand jurors wanting Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron to be impeached. So Okay, so they talk about the Civil Rights Acts, Voting Rights Act. But the landmark civil rights laws were passed because the president decided to make racial justice a substantive legislative domestic priority, not just soaring rhetoric, Perry said. LBJ set the tone, not just in speeches, but working behind the scenes to create legislation. The question, he said, is whether Biden's rhetoric is followed by similar advances. Quote, I think people are certainly hoping that by spring we will begin to see some of these executive orders turn into legislative policy. And if it doesn't happen, then Democrats are going to have a lot of young people to answer to in midterm elections 2022. We got to focus on pushing this stuff through the House of Representatives and the Senate. This stuff just don't happen on its own. Let's see. Okay. Reforming police and overhauling the criminal justice system are among the most urgent goals for many of these groups, as well as fighting voter suppression. Beyond that, many activists say they want Biden to put resources toward reducing disparities in educational and economic opportunities. Agree with that as well. Biden mentioned many of those aims in his remarks Tuesday in the White House dining room, but he cautioned that dismantling systemic racism was a Herculean undertaking. Yeah, that ain't happening overnight. I'll tell you right now, because there's a lot of people are invested in keeping things the way they are. It's not going to be overnight. He said, we're not going to eliminate everything. Okay, so African Americans trail white Americans on every economic measure, including wealth, income, employment, and home ownership. The disparities have existed. Hold on, just jumping around. The disparities have existed for decades, even when comparing workers with similar education levels. That's true. The gaps, many economists say, stem in large part from government-sanctioned policies that continue to discriminate against African Americans in lending, education, criminal justice, and housing. That's true also, because redlining was created by the federal government. That was the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which was created in 1934, and redlining goes back to about 1937. So all that's true. That comes from the federal. A lot of that comes from the federal government. Let's see here. The disparities have existed for decades, even when comparing workers with similar education levels. The gaps, many economists say, stem in large part from government-sanctioned policies that continue to discriminate against Black people in lending, education, criminal justice, and housing. Fair housing advocates characterize Biden's early step as the minimum necessary to combat systemic racial disparities. Lisa Rice, president and chief executive of the National Fair Housing Alliance, said civil rights groups have laid out a detailed timeline for the actions they expect the administration to take to, quote, make the executive orders come to fruition. All right. So check out the rest of this. Also, this is from, read the rest of this article. There's a number of them today. NBC News has one. This is a more extensive one here. Biden signs orders on racial equity and civil rights groups press for more. All right. So check that out from the Washington Post. We'll post the link here. Now I'm going to go and I want to go and read all of these. I read some summaries of them. I want to go and read some of the other ones, previous ones I've read. I haven't had time to read these today. I want to go read these. The one dealing with Asian Americans and discrimination against them, etc. Understand that. Now, I want to go see if the previous executive orders dealt with. I know they dealt with systemic racism and things like that. I'm not sure if they dealt with hate crimes. I want to see if any of them dealt with pertaining to hate crimes for African Americans, anything like that. Because my thing is, okay, if the previous executive orders you did, and maybe there's one coming, don't know. If the previous executive orders that you did, the 30 plus, did not address it specifically for African Americans dealing with hate crimes, things like this, like it did for Asian Americans, then you should be able to have one for African Americans, for Black Americans. That's my thinking. So I want to investigate that also. Executive order on advancing racial equity and support. So, yeah, I want to check that out. That's my thinking. That's my line of thinking. So I think I'm correct in what I'm saying. I want to go back through and read through those executive orders, make sure I'm not missing something. Especially the ones for today, because the ones today, I haven't had a chance to read them at whitehouse.gov. I've read summaries of them. Okay. So we'll try to do that either Wednesday show or Thursday show. All right, let's continue here. Breonna Taylor. Let's go to this because I got to get the hell out of here. So I saw this story on actually January 22nd, and I posted an article about it on the 23rd. Breonna Taylor grand jurors file petition to impeach Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. So 3 grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case filed a petition with the state House of Representatives Friday objecting to the conduct of Attorney General Daniel Cameron and calling for his impeachment. A press release indicated the attorney for 3 of the grand jurors in the Taylor case signed onto the petition on their behalf in order to protect their identities. The petition also alleges Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron breached public trust and failed to comply with his duties by misrepresenting the findings of the grand jury in the Taylor case. Quote, the grand jurors did not choose this battle, said Kevin Glogauer, the attorney for the 3 grand jurors. Quote, this battle chose them. These are randomly selected citizens who were compelled to sit on a grand jury and were terribly misused by the most powerful law enforcement official in Kentucky. It is truly a testament to the Kentucky Constitution that they are able to be here today and expose injustice and demand public accountability. I am honored and humbled to serve them. Now, spokespersons for Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron did not immediately reply to requests for a comment on the petition. And I'm looking at here, this article was updated January 22nd. Apparently they haven't responded since then. At least they haven't updated the article. Usually USA Today is good about updating articles with when there's a response or something like that. So yeah, okay. Glogauer told the Courier Journal, part of the US Today network, that he wasn't sure a supermajority of Republican legislators in Frankfort, Kentucky would give the case the deference it deserves, but to continue to talk about the case, review how it was handled, and hold people accountable is important. Now, Cameron was special prosecutor in the Taylor case, investigating her fatal shooting. We all know about that. By Louisville, Kentucky police officers entering her house on a search warrant in March. Okay, this is March 13th, 2020. The grand jury indicted one of the 3 officers involved for firing bullets into the apartment of Taylor's neighbor. In the petition and verified affidavit submitted to the House, the petitioners state that at his September 23rd press conference announcing the grand jury decision, Kentucky Attorney General David Cameron, quote, said his office presented all of the information and walked the grand jury through every homicide offense before the grand jury came to its conclusion. Now we've heard some from the at least 2 of the people on the grand jury previously. Okay, we've heard from them before. All right, and more information comes out dealing with wrongdoing, dealing with this jury case. Okay, dealing with this grand jury. It didn't go to a regular trial. Dealing with the grand jury. All right. So let me turn on the screen share here. So in the petition and verified affidavit submitted to the House, the petitioners state that his September 23rd press conference announcing the grand jury decision, Cameron, quote, said his office presented all of the information and walked the grand jury through every homicide offense before the grand jury came to its conclusion. All right, let's turn the screen share on. But according to those grand jurors, quote, neither Cameron nor anyone from his office mentioned any homicide offense to the grand jury. Not only were homicide offenses presented as alleged, no charges or any kind were presented to the grand jury other than the 3 wanton endangerment charges against Detective Hankinson. Okay, end quote. So they're basically saying he's lying. The petition goes on to allege that Cameron, quote, deceived the American people and the citizens of this Commonwealth with regard to his office's handling and involvement in the Breonna Taylor investigation and the resulting legal actions. Attorney General Cameron misled the public during his hour-long national press conference in stating that his office's investigation found and the grand jury agreed that police were justified in the return of deadly fire after having been fired upon, end quote. All right. So the petition asked for the state House of Representatives in Kentucky to remove Kentucky State Attorney General Daniel Cameron from office and disqualify him, quote, from holding any office of honor, trust, or profit, end quote, within Kentucky because he lied to the grand jury by excluding information and charges available to them, then lied to the public about what he had told the grand jury. All right. So check out the rest. So in addition to the 3 grand jurors, several other Kentuckians signed on to the petition, including Jennifer Smith, Cameron French, and Brett Darling, according to attorney Anna Whites. Okay, check out the rest of this here from USA Today. And there's other reporting on this also. Breonna Taylor grand jurors file petition to impeach Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully they're successful. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Then I want to go to this last story here. Arturo Schomburg, okay? His birthday was January 24th. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it here on the show. Significant historical figure. Blackpast.org has a good article on Arturo Schomburg. There's one also from AtlantaBlackStar.com. We posted one from the New Amsterdam News for the sake of time, because we're way over time. Well, let's look at this one here from blackpast.org. And he was a Harlem Renaissance figure. He was a historian, Puerto Rican ancestry also. If you like this type of information as well, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, then also through our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Being there, we're 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week. We were doing Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. for 4 years. Now we're on 6 days a week. That really helps us to keep doing the research, keep staying on the air, keep broadcasting. Okay, Cameron is a member of the squad. What squad are you referring to? I'm not sure which squad you're referring to. But Daniel Cameron is a mentee of Moscow Mitch McConnell. So Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. Now you're going to have, I remember back in the day, I talked to somebody who was studying African history and they didn't know also known as Arthur Schomburg. Because of his last name, they didn't know he was of African ancestry. Okay. They thought he was white. He's not. This is at blackpast.org. So Arturo Alfonso Schomburg was a writer, activist, collector, and important figure of the Harlem Renaissance. He was born in Puerto Rico. His mother, a black woman, was originally from St. Croix, Danish Virgin Islands, now the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix. It's interesting history there. And his father was a Puerto Rican of German ancestry. Okay, Schomburg migrated to New York City. Okay, so you know he's biracial, but people hear the name Schomburg and they just think, oh, he's white. No, he has an interesting, background. Schomburg migrated to New York City, New York in 1891. So that's the year before Zara Cully was born. Mother Jefferson. That's the year before she was born. Very active in the liberation movements of Puerto Rico and Cuba, he founded Las Dos Antillas, a cultural and political group that worked for the island's independence, the island of Puerto Rico. After the island of Puerto Rico and Cuba. After the collapse of the Cuban revolutionary struggle and the cession of Puerto Rico to the U.S., Arturo Schomburg, disillusioned, turned his attention to the African American community. In 1911, as its master, he renamed El Sol de Cuba, number 38, a lodge of Cuban and Puerto Rican immigrants, as Prince Hall Lodge, in honor of the first black Freemason in the country, Prince Hall. All right. Now, Freemasonry has its origins in the teachings coming out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. And when you read Egypt on the Potomac, by Tony Browder, he deals with this. And the teachings in the what is probably commonly known as the ancient Egyptian mystery system, the teachings taking place in the lodge, things like this, the lodges. Freemasonry and Mason meaning son of light, which then ties into the sons and daughters of light, who were the initiates into the ancient Egyptian mystery system. Read page 32. Graduates of the highest level of instruction earn the accolades sons and daughters of light, or children of the light. Light and the sun were universal symbols for knowledge and wisdom. The words bright or brilliant became synonymous with pupils who excelled in the classroom, and images of halos or light bulbs were used to depict people who had become enlightened. Page 33. The term Mason is derived from the Latin words mass and sun, M-A-S-S, or child of light, and is a direct reference to the highest degree of the Kemetic education system, or ancient Egyptian education system. The 33 degrees of instruction within Masonry represent a fraction of the 360 degrees of instruction that comprise the Kemetic system of education. Yet, with less than 10% of this wisdom of ancient Kemet, Freemasons have held positions of influence and power throughout the world for over 200 years. For those who are aware of the knowledge that existed in ancient times, the worldwide influence of Freemasonry is a reminder of the ancient maxim, quote, in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king, end quote. So read Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder for more information. All right. Now, so he renamed El Sol de Cuba, number 38, a lodge of Cuban and Puerto Rican immigrants, as Prince Hall Lodge, in honor of Prince Hall. The same year, he also founded the Negro Society for Historical Research. In 1922, he was elected president of the American Negro Academy. Arturo Schomburg was an avid collector of materials on Africa and its diaspora, amassing over 10,000 documents. In 1926, his personal collection was added to the Division of Negro Literature history and prints of the Harlem branch of the New York Public Library, and he served as curator from 1932 until his death. Today, the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture of the New York Public Library is one of the foremost research centers on Africa and the diaspora, with more than 10 million items. Okay, so happy birthday to, or belated birthday, to Arturo Schomburg. Okay, brilliant historian and influencer. He influenced Dr. John Henry Clark and so many others. All right. There's an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com from 2016 by David A. Love that talks about Arturo Schomburg as well. Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, we celebrate the man who helped uncover the history of the African diaspora and inspired many. Okay, so we'll talk about him in some subsequent shows as well. All right. So follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Follow us there. Also, be sure to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So the online course that I teach, that'll start up February 3rd, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, February 3rd, 2021. It's in 8 sessions, 8 consecutive Wednesdays, total of about 16 hours. Email us at AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com to sign up to get more information on the online course also. All right. AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. I think that's all I want to talk about tonight. We'll deal with Zara Cully. We'll talk some more about her tomorrow. Okay. I'm out of energy and we're way over time. Zara Cully, Mother Jefferson. We'll talk about her some more tomorrow. All right. Okay, so read these articles I gave you. Check out these executive orders as well. There's more to come. We should push for more also. But for the first 6 days, I mean, they're off to a good start so far. This stuff has to pass through the legislative branch of government, which is going to be harder. But it has to pass through the legislative branch of government. That's where that's where the real changes are going to come from. The executive orders are a start, and you got to reverse a lot of these that Trump put in office, that Trump signed. There were 192 executive orders that Trump signed in office. So most people don't even deal with that. But you have to deal with those, reversing those, and deal with the legislative branch of government as well. All right, look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating and empowering. Oh, also, if people like the shirt, visit Kemeticwear.com, W-E-A-R, Kemeticwear.com for these shirts. You see their commercials running as well on the rebroadcast of our shows. And then also visit BlackBeesProduct.com, B-E-E-S, BlackBeesProducts.com. But you can get these shirts. I had one on yesterday, the red one with Heru on it. This one has the Ankh and the Kepra beetle, the scarab. Kemeticwear.com, K-E-M-E-T-I-C, Kemeticwear.com. You have a good selection of all types of conscious shirts like this. If you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And then also, you can also email us at AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. Sometimes when I respond from customer service, it goes to people's spam folders. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Peace.
With blackbusinesstee.com, the messages are clear and meaningful. Keep your business in the black and out of the red. Mind your black business, know your numbers, and plan strategically. Black Business Boss, lead your industry. Support black business, encourage, patronize, and uplift one another. blackbusinesstee.com currently has products sold in Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles, with proceeds returned to the black community. They have a wide selection of hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, hats, sweatshirts that support black-owned businesses. Visit the website blackbusinesstee.com. That's blackbusinesstee.com.
Do you have an idea or business that requires app development or thinking of moving your IT resources to the cloud? We have post-paid and profit-sharing plans for unique ideas or profitable businesses. Who can take advantage of this unique program? Entrepreneurs with unique ideas, startups, small to medium businesses. Contact us 267-209-0352.
Visit nomadicsystems.net, nomadicsystems.net today.
Are you getting ready for fall or winter? We have the solution for all seasonal clothing needs. Comedicwear.com is the go-to online source for comedic African fashion and lifestyle products with a contemporary twist. We're committed to offering unique styles reflecting our African heritage. Comedicwear.com is inspired by comedicscribes.com to influence our people in learning and showing pride. Please visit our website at comedicwear.com.
Black Bees products are a collection of natural, organic, personal care products with an appreciation of nature and bees. Our philosophy is without bees, we have nothing. We are honoring our Nile Valley ancestors who understood the importance of bees. Black Bees created a high-quality, natural, organic personal care line that would be affordable to everyone. We hope you try and enjoy our Black Bees products line and come back and visit us at blackbeesproducts.com.
Visit 4glossygirls.com. That's the number 4glossygirls.com, and follow them on Instagram at 4glossygirls. Soul Natural Beauty Product offers organic, plant-based skin and hair care products that will rejuvenate skin and naturally grow and thicken hair. Their whipped shea butter can heal or restore damaged skin cells to prevent hyperpigmentation and skin breakouts. All products are made with organic plant-based ingredients. Their maximum hair growth oil is fortified with organic herbal extracts and undeniably proves that Mother Nature knows best. It thickens, lengthens, softens, and conditions all types of hair. They even guarantee hair improvement within 90 days or a full refund. Their all-natural 24-hour deodorant leaves the body smelling fresh without sweating for up to 24 hours. It does not stain fabric, goes on smoothly, and has a refreshing lavender and frankincense aroma. It can be used by men and even children. Place your order today at soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com. That's soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com, and follow them on Facebook at Soul Natural Beauty Products. Intuitive Design Clothing is an online accessory store that sells one-of-a-kind signature statement pieces for men and women. They also specialize in fashion consultations, closet organization, and decorating small spaces. Are you looking for a statement piece for a special affair, or would you like to add some select pieces to your ensemble of accessories? If you're looking for something different, definitely contact Kathy Norman, owner and CEO of Intuitive Design Clothing. Visit their website, intuitivedesignClothing.com. That's intuitivedesignClothing.com. You can email her at info@intuitivedesignClothing.com. Intuitive Design Clothing is where every entrance is a grand entrance.